Welcome back, language enthusiasts. We're diving into the depths of English once again.
And it's always an exciting journey, isn't it?
It really is. Uncovering those layers of meaning and nuance.
Yeah, today we're focusing on four specific elements that can really boost your fluency and understanding.
Okay, so what have we got?
Well, we've got a common idiom, a couple of super useful vocab words, and a phrasal verb that trips a lot of people up.
Nice. So, beyond just definitions, we're going to get into their backgrounds and look at some practical ways to remember them.
Absolutely. We want you to walk away feeling confident using these.
Perfect. Now, to be clear for everyone, what are the four elements we're tackling today?
All right, so we'll start with the idiom stiff upper lip.
Okay, I've heard that one before, but never really thought about where it came from.
Exactly, we'll explore that. Then we have the words gargantuan and debunk. Big words, big meanings.
I'm intrigued. And lastly,
We'll wrap things up with the phrasal verb let down.
that one can be tricky.
It can be, but we'll break it down and make it easy to grasp.
Fantastic. This is going to be a great deep dive.
And as we go through these, you'll see how they're not just words and phrases. They're tied to culture and history, which is what makes language so fascinating.
It really is. Okay, let's jump right in. Stiff upper lip. What pops into your mind when you hear that?
Well, it paints a picture of someone who's facing a tough situation.
Right.
But they're not falling apart.
They're holding it together.
Exactly. They stay composed, unemotional, stoic, even when things are rough.
Like they're showing resilience.
Yes, a sense of inner strength and self-control.
And I feel like this phrase has a very British feel to it.
You're spot on. It really gained popularity in 19th century Britain. It's very much tied to that British ideal of keeping your emotions in check, especially in the face of hardship.
So, in a way, it's a cultural thing as much as a language thing.
Absolutely. And understanding that cultural context is so important. Think about it. In some cultures, expressing emotions openly is perfectly normal and encouraged. But if you come from that background and encounter someone with a stiff upper lip, you might misinterpret it.
As being cold or uncaring.
Precisely.
Huh.
So recognizing that cultural difference can help avoid misunderstandings.
That's a really important point. Now, back to the phrase itself, stiff upper lip. It's a bit odd when you think about it.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Where did that image come from?
Well, believe it or not, the origin seems to be pretty literal. Have you ever noticed how when someone's trying not to cry, their upper lip might tremble?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So the idea is that by consciously keeping your upper lip still, stiff, you're suppressing those outward signs of distress.
Ah, I see. It's a physical manifestation of that inner control.
Precisely. It's like saying, I'm not going to let my emotions get the better of me.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So how would you use this idiom in a sentence?
Let's say someone's going through a job loss and all the challenges that come with it.
Right.
You could say, despite facing numerous setbacks after losing his job, he maintained a stiff upper lip and continued to search for new opportunities.
Perfect example. It really conveys that sense of resilience in the face of adversity. Now, for our listeners who want to make stiff upper lip part of their active vocabulary, any tips on remembering it?
Visualizations can be incredibly powerful.
Okay, how so?
Picture someone in a chaotic situation, maybe a storm at sea, and their face is completely calm.
Wow, that's vivid.
Right. That contrast, that inner turmoil masked by that controlled expression, that's the essence of stiff upper lip.
That's brilliant. It's like a picture's worth 1,000 words.
Exactly. And if you need more options, think of synonyms like composure, stoicism, or resilience.
Great suggestions. Those all capture that same idea of emotional strength. All right, moving on from composure to something a bit more gigantic.
Gargantuan, you say.
Gargantuan indeed. This word just sounds huge.
It does, doesn't it? And it means exactly that. Enormously large, colossal, massive.
So when you really want to emphasize size, this is the word to use.
Absolutely. If something's just big, you could say large or huge, but when it's truly extraordinary in scale...
Gargantuan comes in.
Right on. Now, this word has a pretty fascinating origin.
Tell me more.
Well, it all goes back to 16th century French literature.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's this author, François Rabelais, who wrote these satirical novels called Gargantua and Pantagruel.
And I'm guessing Gargantua wasn't exactly a small fellow.
Not at all. Gargantua was a giant with a giant appetite to match.
Oh, I see. So the word comes from this larger-than-life character.
Exactly. And that's how the word gargantuan took on its meaning of immense size and scale.
That's really cool, literature shaping language.
It really does. Now imagine you're describing a newly built skyscraper.
Okay.
You could say, the new skyscraper is absolutely gargantuan, towering over all the surrounding buildings.
You can practically feel the ground shake as it looms over everything.
Exactly, and that's the impact of gargantuan. It really paints a picture.
Okay, so how can our listeners best remember this grand word?
Well, the sound itself is quite helpful. It's got that heavy, almost cumbersome feel to it.
Yeah, it's not a light, airy word.
Right. So linking the sound to the meaning of giant can be a good starting point.
Like the sound is as big as the meaning.
And if you want to reinforce that, try using it in contrast, like, this little ladybug is definitely not gargantuan.
That makes sense. Showing what it's not can help clarify what it is.
It can, and don't forget about synonyms. Words like enormous, monstrous, titanic.
Oh, good ones. But they all have slightly different shades of meaning, don't they?
They do. Enormous is more general. Monstrous suggests something scary, big. And titanic often implies power and grandeur, like the ship.
That's a good point. Nuances are important.
They really are. The more you understand those subtle differences, the richer your vocabulary becomes.
Absolutely. Okay, we've gone from maintaining composure to describing the enormous. Now let's shift gears to something that feels a bit, well, disappointing.
You're talking about let down.
Right, yes. It's a common phrasal verb, but it carries that weight of unmet expectations.
It does. To let someone down is to disappoint them, usually by failing to meet their expectations or by breaking a promise.
It's more than just messing up. It's about that impact on someone else's feelings.
Exactly. It can lead to sadness, disillusionment, even a sense of betrayal, depending on the situation.
You mentioned having a visual for this one.
I do. Imagine a balloon all inflated and full of potential.
Okay, I see it.
And then it slowly starts to deflate, losing its air, becoming limp.
Ah, that perfectly captures the feeling of let down, that sinking feeling.
It does, doesn't it? It's like that hope or excitement just deflates.
Okay, can you give us an example sentence with let down?
Sure. Imagine a group of kids excited about a trip to the amusement park.
Oh, that sounds fun.
But then bad weather hits and the trip gets canceled. Oh no, that's heartbreaking.
Right. You could say, the children felt really let down when the promised trip to the amusement park was canceled.
It's such a relatable scenario. So how can our listeners remember the meaning of let down?
One way is to associate it with a downward motion.
Okay, I like that, like a sinking feeling.
Exactly. When you're let down, your mood often drops, you feel heavier.
It makes perfect sense. Any simple synonyms or phrases we can use?
Disappoint is a good one. You could also say fail to meet expectations.
Those work well.
But remember, let down often emphasizes the emotional side of that failure.
It's not just about the action itself, it's about how it makes someone feel.
Precisely. So we've covered a lot of ground today. We talked about keeping a stiff upper lip, exploring the vastness of gargantuan, and understanding how to debunk and the feeling of being let down.
It's been quite the journey through these different facets of English.
It has. And for you, our listener, I hope this deep dive has provided some clarity, some new tools for your language learning journey. Absolutely. We've looked at meanings, origins, examples, and even some fun memory tricks.
And as you continue encountering these in your daily life, they'll become more familiar, more ingrained in your understanding.
So keep that curiosity alive, keep exploring, keep practicing. We'll be back with more deep dives into the amazing world of English.
And before we go, here's a thought to ponder. Do you think understanding the historical and cultural roots of words and idioms, like the ones we discussed today, can actually help you connect with native English speakers on a deeper level?
That's a great question to think about. We'll see you next time.